Whether you're buying, selling, or just keeping an eye on the market, this real estate update is brought to you by Bayleys Country, your rural and lifestyle property specialists.
Yes, whenever we talk real estate on CountryWide Connect, we do thank our very good friends at Bayleys. The rural property market has always been cyclical, but according to new analysis from Bayleys, the current combination of strong farm incomes, lower interest rates and active buyers has created a rare opportunity for vendors. Data shows dairy farm sales have surged over the past 2 years, while history suggests these favourable conditions won't last forever. Joining us now is Duncan Ross, Bayleys Chief Operating Officer and National Director Rural for Bayleys, to discuss why timing the market could be just as important of choosing the right property. Duncan, g'day mate, welcome to the show. Your article, which I read, a great article which was in LinkedIn. If you want to find this article, just go onto LinkedIn, look for Duncan Ross and you'll be able to see it. But you say the rural property market runs on two things, liquidity and confidence. Why do you believe we're right in that sweet spot right now?
G'day, Andy. Good to be on the show again. Yeah, I guess. Well, if you look at the farm operations, the market's pretty confident. The farmers are feeling pretty good. Farm gate returns are good, and it's been relatively sustained. We've had a reasonably good autumn and winter, kicking off into calving and bits and pieces again now. I guess from an economy perspective, the mainstay of our economy certainly is the strength of our rural market again. So everything's feeling reasonably well and reasonably good in that in the farm operations and liquidity. Hey, look, as I said, farm gate returns are pretty good. Farmers are probably making an extra buck or two from an operation perspective. The dairy. The capital return from Fonterra last year pumped a lot of money back into that rural economy, and the banks are probably sitting on a large pot of gold, waiting to be redirected out there. We've certainly been through more dairy transactions in the last 12 months than ever before, and the early part of this year is certainly showing some strength on it again, but probably more supply side constrained.
Well, I know the banks are sitting on a large pot of gold. Actually, I was talking to one rural banker from a bank that's going to remain nameless, late night in a bar, mentioned to me that this particular bank had $800 million sitting there that came in during that Fonterra payout. And they were looking for places for it to go. And that's costing them money. And banks don't like that, do they? They like to be getting money back from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I guess that's probably where we see that dairy market. As I said, from a transaction perspective, we've been through more deals in the last 12 months than ever before, and that's the case across the wider New Zealand market as well. From all agencies, I think there was something like $1.3 billion worth of dairy transactions the year prior, and then last year was sort of at 2.4. And as I said, the first half of this year, transactions are probably mirroring last year. So certainly plenty of activity, and as I guess from the state of the deposits that are held in the banks, there's a lot of farmers out there looking to grow on that.
Yeah, your article said that the numbers are very impressive. Dairy farm sales jumped 73% in the year to March 2025, and total sales value rose 90%, which tells me that prices are still rising for dairy farms. What are you seeing at the Tier 1 and at the Tier 2 level? Are they both still moving, and do you have enough, I guess?
Yeah, I guess that's interesting, isn't it? The value's gone up significantly. What we are seeing is in that Tier 1, sort of that Mid Canterbury under good irrigation water, and that's a market that has sort of leapt ahead, and it's been sustained now. It wasn't a one-off sort of jump into that $80 odd thousand a hectare. We had a auction last week at Pole Road there, and that went to 13.8 million. I think there was 6 bidders there. There was probably another 4 or 5 that had been given approval to go upwards of sort of $11 million, which was probably in that high $70,000 a hectare, but it closed out at $89,000 a hectare. So, that's a market that is sustained now, and I guess you're probably prepared to take some of that. There's from a yield perspective, you're probably still in that 5.5-6%, even at those values. But you're plus or minus 1 or 2% any given year in terms of production, aren't you? But I think that's probably the highlight for where prices have really leapt out of the ground. But for the rest of the country is probably more sustained, but there's buyers throughout the country. Like we've to the point with those deposits being held by the banks. There's buyers right around the country now that haven't deployed that capital. They're looking around. We're probably more supply side constrained in terms of the number of farms coming into the market because. Rightly so to a degree, farmers are taking the opportunity to make a buck out of the operations. But I guess what we're suggesting, you want to be in control of that, of your exit. Timing is absolutely everything. If you've got a 3 to 5 year horizon, the cycle will change at a point in time. And you want to be in the market where there's willing buyers, rather than in a market where there's no buyers. And you're having to carry on and milk those cows.
Yeah, well, no, you don't want to be doing that, especially if you want to get out over the next 3 to 5 years. So interesting. Understand the cycle, and all businesses. There's all cycles in real estate in particular. We've seen that many, many times. But what about then? And this is probably an unfair question, and I'm not sure if you can answer it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are we at the peak then? Do you think this is as good as it gets?
Oh, hey, look, there's no doubt that global demand for our product will continue to grow. What we are seeing right now, Andy, is an alignment of farm gate returns, and that could be influenced by global influences, war, bits and pieces. There's a lot of things that are impacting our dollar again. But farm gate returns are high, and equally at the same time, the wider economy is thankful for rural production. So there's a bit of confidence in the market, and there's the liquidity there. And those things don't often align to that degree. So for the ability for a large number of our farmers to transact over the course, and there's a bunch of them have done that in the last sort of 12 months. Moving forward, there's plenty of capacity. I guess what we are seeing again is those farmers wanting to make an extra $150,000 and take that through the next year or so. But yeah, that cycle, as we sort of pointed out, doesn't hang around forever. It'll come again, but. Yeah.
That's interesting, because what you're effectively saying there is you can be playing the market. Yeah, you could guarantee you get the 150 or the 200 grand for the next couple of years, but the market could dip and you could lose out significantly. And that's a choice everyone's got to make. What about the buyers, Duncan? Who's coming in to buying at the moment?
There's been a lot of talk about the larger corporates and buying up and really growing their platforms. What we are seeing, and we say 150,000, 200,000 extra in terms of the productive capacity. There's some pretty big farms out there, and they're not talking those sorts of money. That they're talking millions. But by and large, the farmer network operates that mid-scale dairy farm. And throughout the country, it's farming units that are looking to grow. There is succession on one side. On the other side, we've got to balance that with farmers that want to exit. There's demand right throughout the country is the point, I think, and not everyone's looking to jump into Mid Canterbury or Southland or North Otago, sort of at record pricing in some of those areas. Certainly activity right throughout in that tier 2 and just the normal farming operations. Locals buying locally.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the tier 2 market and what that is like. That's still pretty strong, because there are people who, whether they're first farm buyers or farmers who are looking just to buy that second or third farm, they don't necessarily have the wherewithal to go into that tier 1 market, right?
No, I made it. Like, it astounds me, some of the, as I said, you had six bidders who are ready to put 11 or $13 million down under the hammer, which is exciting, and just shows the strength in some areas. But by and large, that's not the case. People are looking to just expand their current units, and it's as I say, we'd have more buyers looking to deploy as the banks would be looking to help them into growing their lending on sustainable levels. So, yeah.
What about when? Because traditionally, spring has been the time to sell. Is that still the case?
No, I guess the transactions that have occurred is really reflective of the fact that we've really worked out how to transact mid-season, whether it's dairying or whether it's horticulture, a crop on, crop off. The accountants and lawyers have sort of got that piece sorted. Everyone sort of appreciates if they're in the industry, they appreciate what the property should be looking like. The spring piece, obviously you come into a bit of flush, the cows are milking, you've got your head round calving and back into mating and those sorts of things. That was the traditional sort of space, but absolutely we're marketing properties right throughout the year, and they're transacting outside of those traditional settlements as well. So it used to be a little bit around the headspace, your ability to go and look at something, and certainly from a presentation perspective. But these are genuine businesses that people understand the metrics of the revenue flows and how to get their heads around it.
All right. Certainly is an exciting time. And Duncan, if someone's listening to this and thinking, right, it is time for me to exit, I'm going to take Duncan's advice. Give one of your many rural real estate guys and girls around the country a call would be my suggestion.
Absolutely, yep. They're willing and ready to answer your call and give you a bit of good advice.
Never met a real estate agent that wasn't, so that would be a surprise. Hey, Duncan Ross, great to have you on the show, National Director Rural for Bayleys. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for your support of CountryWide Connect, mate. It's always appreciated.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy.
Real estate in partnership with Bayleys Country, your rural and lifestyle property specialists. To learn more about rural and lifestyle property opportunities or to connect with a local expert, visit bayleys.co.nz/country. Licensed REAA 2008.